Hello and welcome back, guys, to Cyber Diaries episode number 27, your cybersecurity podcast, where we will discuss the latest cybersecurity news, where we will cover what happened in the cyber world in the last week. We also will cover the Cyber Corner, where we're going to review one of the vendors this week that we are collaborating, that we are working together, and we will highlight their product, and we will highlight why we're working with them and how are they solving cybersecurity problems. And obviously the most popular part, where we delve into a day in the life of a CISO. So we'll discuss what I've been working this week, what initiatives I'm working in my day job, and hopefully highlight and give you some nuggets how to improve your cyber program. You don't need to be a cyber leader to learn the new skills and adapt the way you are working in your cybersecurity journey. So without further ado, let's have a look what cyber news are the most prominent this week. So first and foremost, on the new agenda is Microsoft sues hacking group exploiting Azure AI for harmful content. So Microsoft has revealed that it's pursuing legal action against a foreign-based threat actor group. So for operating hacking as a service infrastructure to intentionally get around the safety controls of its generative artificial intelligence services and produce offensive and harmful content. Now this came quite interesting because obviously there are threat actor groups that are leveraging and getting more involved into AI and what it means, because obviously we've seen examples of where phishing becoming more prevalent and more sophisticated due to AI usage. So what does that mean? So basically the tech giant's digital crimes unit said it has observed the threat actors develop a sophisticated software that exploited exposed customer credentials scraped from public websites. And essentially what it did, it sought to identify and unlawfully access accounts with certain generative AI services and purposely alter the capabilities in those services. So basically, the adversaries used these services such as Azure OpenAI service and monetized the access by selling them to other malicious actors, providing them with detailed instructions as to how to use those custom tools to generate harmful content. So Microsoft said it discovered the activity in July 2024. So basically the company said that since it revoked the threat actor group's access and implemented new countermeasures and fortified its safeguards to prevent such activity from occurring in the future. It also said it obtained a court order to seize a website called aitism.net, so AITISM.net, that was central to the group's criminal operation. So essentially, basically, the popularity of AI tools like OpenAI, ChatGPT has also had the consequences of threat actors abusing them for malicious intents, ranging from producing prohibitive content to malware development. And I think that's the key point: prohibitive content and malware development. So Microsoft and OpenAI has repeatedly disclosed that nation-state groups from China, Iran, and North Korea, as well as Russia, are using their services for reconnaissance, translation, and disinformation campaigns. So looking at the court documents, they show that at least 3 known individuals are behind the operation, leveraging stolen API keys and custom Entra ID authentication information to basically breach Microsoft systems and to create harmful images using DALL-E in violation of its acceptable use policy. So 7 other parties are believed to have used the services and tools provided by them for similar purposes. So the manner in which the API keys are harvested is currently not known, but Microsoft said the defendants engaged in systematic API key theft from multiple customers, including several US companies, some of which are located in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. So using those stolen Microsoft API keys that belong to US-based Microsoft customers, the defendants created a hacking as a service scheme, basically accessible via infrastructure like Rentry.org, aitism.net domains, specifically designed to abuse Microsoft Azure infrastructure and software. So according to now removed GitHub repository, which has been described as a DALI front end with reverse proxy support, which was created in November 8th on 2023. So it said that basically actors took steps to cover their tracks, including by attempting to delete certain Rentry.org pages, the GitHub repository for the basically Deju tool, and portions of the reverse proxy infrastructure. So Microsoft basically noted that the threat actors used bespoke reverse proxy service called the OIA reverse proxy to make Azure OpenAI service API calls using the stolen API keys in order to unlawfully generate thousands of harmful images, text prompts. So it's unclear what type of offensive imagery was created. So it's important, guys, to be able to detect and prevent your API keys. Again, it's all about supply chain attacks. As it showcases in this article, it's very easy to, be phished and get through those campaigns to divulge this information. So, it's worth pointing out that, these proxy services to illegal access LLM services was highlighted in May 2024 by CISO in conjunction with LLM attack campaign targeting AI offerings from Anthropic, AWS, Bedrock, Google Cloud, Vertex AI, and Microsoft Azure, Mistral, OpenAI, basically using cloud credentials and selling access to other actors. So it's becoming quite a big thing to steal credentials and then obviously sell these services, especially in AI space. So it will be interesting how this develops in the future, but yeah, be aware and make sure, I think, non-human identity is becoming a big space in cybersecurity. So how you secure and prevent leakage of API keys, SSH keys, and all of that, that comes with non-human identity is going to be very important in the near future. So another interesting news development comes from ransomware on ESXi, essentially the mechanization of virtualized attacks. So in 2024, ransomware attacks targeting VMware ESXi servers reached alarming levels, with the average ransom demand skyrocketing to $5,000 and approximately 8,000 hosts being discovered directly to the internet. Essentially, they are being exposed to the internet, according to, if you look at Shodan, the operational and business impact of these attacks is profound. So most of the ransomware strands that they are attacking ESXi servers nowadays are variants of the infamous Babook ransomware, which has been essentially adapted to avoid detection of security tools. More importantly, accessibility is becoming more widespread as attackers monetize the entry points, essentially by selling initial access to other threat actors, including ransomware groups. So as organizations are dealing with compounded threats on an ever-expanding front, new vulnerabilities, new entry points, and monetized cybercrime networks, and more, there is ever-growing urgency for enhanced security measures and vigilance. So just for you guys, I guess, to paint a picture and for you to understand, how an attacker can gain entrance to ESXi host begins with understanding the architecture of virtualized environments and their components. So, if we build, targeting attackers are targeting ESXi servers might look for central node that manages multiple ESXi hosts. This will allow them to maximize their impact, which basically brings us to essentially a vCenter, which is the central administration for VMware infrastructure and is designed to manage multiple ESXi hosts. So the vCenter server orchestrates essentially host management with a default VPX user account holding root permissions So essentially, the VPX user account is responsible for the whole administrative actions on the virtual machines residing on the ESXi hosts. So for example, if you transfer VMs between the hosts and modifying configurations of active VMs. So encrypted passwords for each connected host are stored in a table within the vCenter server. So a secret key stored on a vCenter server facilitates password decryption and consequently, basically, total control over each and every one of the hosts. So once decrypted, the VPX user account can be used for root permissions operations, essentially including altering configurations, changing passwords, and other accounts such as SSH login and executing ransomware. So basically, I think the key point here is, and I'll kind of touch a bit on the most important message is that we need to think about 4 key strategies about how we can do risk mitigation in those scenarios. So once we acknowledge that vCenter security is at risk, the next step is to essentially strengthen the defenses by putting obstacles in the path of potential attackers. So some strategies will include, so you need to make sure that we do regular VCSA updates. So always the latest version of VMware vCenter appliance and keep it updated. You need to also deploy effective detection tools. So use detection and prevention tools directly on your vCenter solutions like EDRs, XDRs, or third-party tools that can help with monitoring and alerts. We also need practice network segmentation. So you need to make sure you segment your network to control traffic flow and reduce the risk of lateral movement by attackers. And probably the last but not least is continuous testing. So strengthening your ESXi security. So you need to protect your vCenter from ESXi ransomware attacks is vital. The risks are tied to a compromised vCenter, essentially, which can affect your entire organization and impacting everyone who relies on the critical data. So things like, just simple things like regular testing and assessments, you can help, identify and address those gaps, before they become serious issues. Work with security experts who can help you implement, for example, continuous threat exposure management strategy, which is tailored to your organization. But yeah, this is becoming more and more of a problem. So yeah, think about how you can create a continuous threat exposure sort of management strategy and work your way through it based on your risk appetite. Now, if we move into the next news, another interesting story in the headlines was that cybercriminals use fake CrowdStrike job offers to distribute a crypto miner. So cybercriminals were impersonating CrowdStrike recruiters to distribute essentially a crypto miner on victim devices. So CrowdStrike said it identified a phishing campaign exploiting its recruitment branding on January the 7th. So basically what it is that, the campaign starts with a phishing email, which then purports to part of the cybersecurity firm's recruitment process. And essentially the email invites the target to schedule an interview for a junior developer role. So basically the email contains a link claiming to take recipient to a site where they can schedule their interview. And essentially this routes them to the victim, basically to a malicious phishing site containing download links for a fake CRM application with separate links essentially for Windows and for Mac OS systems. So impersonated malicious phishing site containing download links for a fake CRM application. So basically, it's regardless of which of these options are selected, essentially the user will download a Windows executable written in Rust. This executable functions as a downloader for SXMRig. Basically, it's a crypto miner. So the downloaded executable performs several environmental checks designed to evade detection and analyze the infected device. These include, things like scanning the list of running processes for common malware analysis, or virtualization software tools verifying that the central processing unit had at least 2 cores, and detecting if a debugger is attached to the process using the isDebugger present Windows API. So if these checks are passed, then the executable displays a fake error message pop-up. We're proceeding to download additional payloads to achieve persistence and run the basically ESXi miner. So crypto miners are essentially, a malicious software designed to hijack computers' processing power in order to mine cryptocurrency. So, crypto mining can cause your affected devices basically to overheat, potentially, result in damage and shortening device lifespan. So, CrowdStrike said, they are aware of the scams and involving false offers of employment. And basically these scams usually, involve the use of fake websites, email addresses, group chats, and text messages. So basically, the vendor issued basically advice. So, interviews that claim to be carried out via instant messages or group chat, they're not right. You should never be asked to, purchase products or services or process payments as a condition of any employment offer. You should never be asked to download any software for interviews. And individuals who are, in the recruitment process always should seek and verify and by contacting recruiting at crowdstrike.com. Again, these types of attacks have been happening for years. I always say to people in the process, be vigilant. Recruiters will never, or recruitment companies or, vendors themselves, they will never ask you to download specific software as part of recruitment process, and be always wary. And as I mentioned here, you can always verify, contact, the company itself and verify that this is the correct way to go through a recruitment process. But yeah, be vigilant out there, guys. I know the tough economic climate is out there and people are getting desperate to get a role, and that's how threat actors play on your feelings. When people are desperate, they make mistakes. So be wary and vigilant out there and stay safe, guys. Now, next part of the news is there's a new ransomware group that uses AI to develop nefarious tools. So I don't know if you guys heard of, you are aware of it, but there's basically a new ransomware group called FunkSec, which emerged in late 2024. And basically they claim to have targeted 85 victims in December alone, according to the Checkpoint research. So in January 10th, report CPR noted that FunkSec operators, essentially, they use AI-assisted malware development. So CPR also noted that this AI capability can enable even inexperienced, basically, actors to quickly produce and refine advanced tools. So if we look at some publicly available information, so essentially the FunkSec group is presenting itself as a new sort of ransomware as a service operation. And the FunkSec, does not appear to have any known connections to previously identified ransomware gangs. So let's dive in a little, and find out if we can find any information about, its origins or operations. So Checkpoint indicated essentially that the group uses double extortion tactics. What they do is they combine data theft with encryption to pressure victims into paying ransoms. While the group is kind of largely unknown until December 2024, the group has published data for over 85 organizations only in 1 month, surpassing the activity of all other ransomware groups. So, they're spreading very quickly. The group's data leak site reveals victims spanning all continents. So, despite the high number of victims, a significant portion of groups' leaked data sets appear to be recycled from previous hacktivism campaigns, which basically raises questions about the authenticity of their claims. So, Checkpoint researchers noted also that, the group demands kind of unusually low ransoms, sometimes as little as $10,000, and sells basically the stolen data to the third parties for, at kind of reduced prices. So, despite this high number of published victims, the Checkpoint researchers kind of noted and assessed that the reality of FunkSec's impact is quite modest, both in terms of actual victims as well as the group's level of expertise. FunkSec operations are likely conducted by inexperienced actors linked to hacktivism activity, and ransomware group's tools incorporate those commonly associated, with any hacktivism activity. So FunkSec is offering includes custom developed distributed denial of service tool, a tool designed for remote desktop management, automation and data interaction, and smart password generation and scraping tool. So basically, analysis of group's public operations and tools highlighted that a custom encryptor is likely developed by a relatively inexperienced malware author based in Algeria. And basically, some of the ransomware group's tooling was likely developed using AI-assisted development solutions. So, AI seems to be, proliferated in all aspects of hacktivism. So the use of AI assistance, may have contributed to the kind of rapid iteration despite the author's kind of apparent lack of technical expertise. So what it looks like that FunkSec has leveraged multiple personas to gain visibility and attempted to kind of associate itself with several now defunct hacktivism groups, including Ghost Algeria, Cyber Flood, and also the group appears to target organizations in countries aligned with or who support Israel. So don't know whether that's coincidence or whether there's more information is going to come out of it. So yeah, be aware, guys, that hacktivism and cybercrime is spreading. So obviously there's another group who seems to lack sophistication, but they're trying to build their reputation very quickly and very rapidly just by leveraging AI. So it's an interesting developing in that space. And then last but not least, obviously, we have the latest news from Wordpress skimmers who are evading detection by injecting themselves into the database tables. So this comes kind of, again, an interesting development. So cybersecurity researchers are warning that, there's a new stealthy credit card skimmer campaign that targets WordPress e-commerce checkout pages. Essentially what they do is they insert themselves into sort of malicious JavaScript code into the database table within the content management system, so within the CMS. So this credit card skimmer malware is targeting WordPress websites, basically silently injects its JavaScript into the database entries to steal sensitive payment details. So the malware activates specifically on checkout pages, so either by hijacking existing payment fields or injecting a fake credit card form. So GoDaddy-owned website security company said it discovered the malware embedded into the WordPress WP_options, as you can see, guys, on the screen as well, table with the option widget_block, thus allowing it to avoid detection by scanning tools and persist on compromised sites without attracting basically any attention. So in doing so, basically the idea is to insert the malicious JavaScript into a HTML block widget through a WordPress admin panel, basically WP admin/widgets. And basically what it does, so the JavaScript code works by checking if the current page is a checkout page, and then it ensures that it springs into action only after the site visitor is about to enter their payment details, at which point it dynamically creates a bogus payment screen that mimics the legitimate payment processors like Stripe. So the form is basically designed to capture users' credit card numbers, expiration dates, CVV numbers, and billing information. Basically, the rogue script is capable of capturing data entered on legitimate payment screens in real time to maximize compatibility. So the stolen data is then subsequently basically base64 encoded and combined with AES CBC encryption to make it appear harmless and resist analysis attempts. So in the final stage, it's then transmitted to an attacker controlled, basically walhafather.xyz or fqbe23.xyz domains. So this development comes more than a month after Securi highlighted a similar campaign that leveraged JavaScript malware to dynamically create fake credit card forms or extract data entered in payment fields on checkout pages. So this harvested information is then subject to 3 layers of obfuscation by encoding it first as JSON, then XOR encrypting it with a key script, and finally using base64 encoding prior to exfiltration to a remote server, staticfonts.com. So basically these scripts are basically designed to extract sensitive credit card information from specific fields on the checkout page. So the malware collects additional user data through Magento's API, including the username, address, email, phone number, and other billing information. This data is retrieved via Magento's customer data and quote models. So this disclosure essentially follows the discovery of a financially motivated phishing email campaign that tricks recipients on clicking PayPal login pages under the guise of an outstanding payment request to the tune of nearly $2,200. So the scammer appears to have, simply registered Microsoft 365 domain, which is free for 3 months, and then created a distribution list, basically called billing departments, some numbers on Microsoft.com, containing victim emails. So on the PayPal web portal, they simply request the money and add the distribution list to the address. What makes this campaign sneaky is the fact that the messages originate from a legitimate PayPal address, service@paypal.com, and contain a genuine sign-in URL, which allows the emails to slip past security tools. And basically, to make matters worse, as soon as the victim attempts to log into their PayPal account about the payment request, their account is automatically linked to the email address of the distribution list, permitting the threat actor to hijack control of the account. So basically, in recent weeks, the malicious actors have also been observed leveraging a novel technique called transaction simulation spoofing to steal cryptocurrency from victim wallets. So modern Web3 wallets incorporate transaction simulation as a user-friendly feature. This capability allows basically users to preview the expected outcome of their transaction before signing it. So while designed to enhance transparency and user experience, attackers have found ways to exploit this mechanism. So, going back to Wordpress skimmers, so the infection change involves taking advantage of the gap between transaction simulation and execution, which basically permits the attackers to set up fake sites mimicking decentralized apps in order to carry out fraudulent wallet draining attacks. So this new attack vector kind of represents, a significant evolution in the phishing techniques. So, rather than relying on simple deception, attackers are now exploiting trusted wallet features that users rely on for security. This sophisticated kind of approach makes detection particularly challenging. So, whether it's PayPal, whether it's, cryptocurrency wallets, some of these things, you have to be very vigilant, guys, of who you trust, what did you sign, because, I always say, there are ways around it. There are ways to detect it. There are ways to, type in your own address then rather than click on links to prevent those things from, happening to you and you becoming a victim. So be wary, be vigilant, get yourself informed, and always ask for, security professionals' advice before you complete any of those transactions, so that does not affect you. And that's pretty much for security news, guys. Now we're going to jump into the vendor corner and discuss our vendor corner candidate for this week is Surf Security. So Surf Security is a company that I've been working with for a while. I am board advisor for Surf Security, making sure that the way vendor builds their go-to-market strategy and help them to make sure that it reaches the correct professionals, but also making sure that their solution aligns to CISO needs. So what is Surf? So Surf is essentially provides users with freedom of work, letting them interact with applications, data, and each other securely. It addresses the critical business asset neglected by security experts for years, the browser itself. So, the browser is actually essentially it's an access frontier for everything. Users, data, corporate assets, applications, development activities, and cyber criminals too. So, Surf Security has transformed, the browser into your strongest security asset while providing complete end-user privacy, all full with compliance. Through this centralized platform, Surf insists on identity-first access to all SaaS and corporate assets to guarantee a secured and frictionless user experience. So Surf enhances not only security, but performance, productivity for end users and applications. And it's done faster than ever before. So think about, I listed some of the use cases here, but think about, security for Gen AI. Think about replacing legacy VDI solutions. Think about securing bring your own devices. Think about securing the third-party contractor estate that needs, timely access into your OT, IT environment and stuff like that. So Surf's Zero Trust browser address, operational security with advanced technical enterprise architecture and zero trust principles. I think that's the key point, and policy. So it automatically enforces, international privacy laws. Think of GDPR, ISO standards. So I just wanted to highlight from few points, from how we can help now. For example, from CIO perspective, it allows you to maximize productivity for all users across all applications and data. So you can mitigate internal behavior lapses, policy infringement, and external cyber influences with Surf. So essentially, the browser allows employees, supply chain partners, and contractors to work faster with greater flexibility, and ensures that software development teams have secure administration rights. Now, if you're a CISO, you can embrace and secure the rapid expansion and diversity of corporate devices and BYOD while enabling safe, flexible, hybrid work for all roles. So you can oversee employee behaviors and essentially protect against shadow IT, as well as all other known and unknown cyber criminal vectors. Think about, if you are IT and security teams, Surf Zero Trust Enterprise Browser for safe and ad-free browser use across the entire organization. Think about, how Surf can mitigate phishing attacks, compromise security from fake and dangerous websites, stopping account credential abuse and secure remote work with fewer incidents, data loss alerts, and, support tickets. Think about if you are, compliance officer. You can enforce the highest risk management principles and practices for, whether it's login access or, action authentication. Zero Trust browser essentially monitors activities and identifies, tracks, investigates, and responds to unauthorized access attempts. So think about, how zero trust requires, company-wide dynamic commitment from the board to help, the help desk, cloud services, and third parties. So Zero Trust Enterprise Browser is essentially your single point of access and control to fully enforce your compliance policies. So if you guys haven't heard of it, check it out. Have a look at Cybersecurity website. It's run by amazing people, who are great friends, who run some great communities and share some great initiatives across the cyber ecosystem. But yeah, have a look at Cybersecurity. And if you have problems in, addressing some of these use cases, so check them out. And if you want, reach out. I'm happy to do an introduction. So this is our vendor corner for this week. Now let's look at what a day in the life of a CISO looks like into our next session. So obviously we touched a bit about what I've done last week. So this week is a bit different agenda, obviously different things on my agenda and on my plate. So first and foremost, obviously, this week I've done some activities. So I'm meeting with one of our IT audit Big Four partners, where we are planning and discussing what we're going to do and how we're going to approach our 2024 financial and IT audit. So obviously that forms quite a lot of my work, making sure that we provide evidence of our IT and security controls estate, to make sure that we're tracking the progress and how we are mitigating some of the risks that have been identified from previous audits, making sure that my team is ready to provide evidence of how we are maturing as an organization and how we're growing and how we can provide some of these controls that we use. We are obviously FCA regulated entity, so there is a number of controls and regulations. We are expanding globally, so there's a number of things that we do and plan in the near future. So obviously it's an important part and an important task again to collaborate with those auditors to make sure that they understand our ecosystem, understand how we apply some of these controls and how are we managing, how we are evidencing, and how we showcasing and how we building processes that support those controls. I think that's the key point. So that's part of one of my days this week. We also we kind of stood up quite a lot of programs and processes that we are helping business with cost saving plans. I always say, especially sometimes, I kind of mentioned and I think alluded this before, but working in a smaller organization, it allows you to gain traction in various levels of IT expertise. Cost savings is not necessarily directly related to cybersecurity, but it's a chance to learn, it's a chance to adapt and help business to plan how we're doing our cloud consumption planning, where we can introduce savings, reservation plans, how our infrastructure is going to evolve as we onboard new clients, which infrastructure can be shared, which can't be, how we work together with our cloud partners to make sure that we leverage the best discounts, we get the credits back, how we partner in various their startup programs to get specific, whether it's tools that they offer for free, whether advice, leveraging the architects and their expertise, how to use the cloud. I think that's very important, and I always get cybersecurity involved in those initiatives. We're also running a cybersecurity induction this week. We got, I think, 6 or 7 new starters this week. So again, it's a great way to onboard people and showcase. I always want to, I always talk about cybersecurity. It's essentially we are a services organization. We provide services to external partners and internal partners. So we always want to showcase, what services we provide, what we do, what's our work, how we can help each business unit to achieve their goals. It's a good way as well, segment as people coming into the business to talk about awareness training and understanding of what are the dangers that we are facing, how every single person can help us be more secure. Also, we have a meeting this week again, so we are planning a lot of initiatives for the year ahead. So we always walk through and give everyone's idea and sort of feedback of what they would like to work on, what have they discovered that we can improve, how we can improve processes, how we can add automation to security to save time, how we can improve our, BAU activities, whether it's daily, weekly tasks, monthly tasks, how we can better showcase what we do into the business, and how we can highlight some of the risks that we uncover. So these meetings are always great, to get people to showcase what they've been working, showcase to what, they would like to work on, what the initiatives they think would solve some of the risks that we face, and how we can mitigate some of these. So yeah, that's part of the agenda. I'm also always participating into so obviously we are, as I mentioned kind of before, we're becoming a global business. So we're running 3 change boards. So we have the EU, US, and Australian change boards. So I'm always participating as well. Just being, I guess, aware of what changes are going into production. What changes are we planning? Is there any potential security impact? Anything from resilience that can provide advice and help, making sure that obviously all the important checks and balances have been done. We also run weekly, daily production meetings where we update, if we have any production issues, any incidents, how we plan, future production, especially, post-client launches, where we're talking about, hypercare and support of our clients during the launch, how we planning, busy periods, things like, obviously this is not no agenda now, but, things like, for example, Black Friday, Christmas, obviously increases the traffic and load on our platforms. So all of these events, like, obviously we are working with telco partners. So any new telephone launches, we greatly partner with telcos who launch their new devices. So it's always, an uptick in whether it's fraud, whether it's purchase, whether it's load on our system. So we always need to plan with these. I have a number of meetings this week as well. So we are kind of going ahead and building AI capabilities for internal business and for our products. So I'm meeting some business partners to discuss security requirements for those AI partners and what we're going to build in our products. So it's always exciting to be part of these new initiatives and making sure that obviously we adopt AI with security in mind. We make sure we don't leave any stone unturned. So it's very exciting to be part of this, as we scale a business across the globe. And build these exciting, innovative AI solutions and initiatives. So that's kind of the week. Now, I always want to end and add a bit of a nugget of the work that I'm doing as well, and how you can guys potentially leverage and become a better leader. And I just, I'm not an expert, and I don't pretend to know it all, but I just want to share some of the, advice and some of the nuggets and some of the tools that help me gain traction and support in my initiative and programs. So one of the things that I think you can guys leverage is Cybersecurity Executive Charter. So what it is essentially, I often get to talk to cybersecurity leaders who often say that their program either is lacking support or is lacking traction. They don't know how to get budget approvals and things like that. So Cybersecurity Charter or Executive Cybersecurity Charter, I think it's an important document that you can get your senior leadership to sign and agree how they can support your cyber program. So essentially it sets out overall responsibility. So normally that's where you put, that people know obviously with now what's happening in the world, but essentially board of directors or senior executives or however your business is run, they need to understand that they accept and hold the overall responsibility of information security management. And then you set out a mandate. So basically, the mandate is that these senior executives, though, will delegate information security management responsibilities to you as a security leader. You don't have to be security leader. If you're just one person in security department, for you will be as well important to gain traction and support in whatever initiatives that you're doing. Then we obviously set out what's going to be our security strategy, how we align the strategy to the business goals and risk appetite, how we're going to create and deliver the strategy according to the framework that we will build in the business. And then we're going to talk about, the authority, that senior executives has to grant to you as a cybersecurity leader to enforce and apply those elements of your cybersecurity strategy and framework. So it's very imperative that this authority is granted across all the geographical entities in order for you to, get this initiative across the line. We're talking about next part is about resources and support. What kind of resources you need in order to achieve this program and build this framework. How they will need to consider and consult the security function during any strategic initiatives that might impact your framework. We're talking about as well, there's an important part that, project involvement. So how you need to make sure that security senior executives mandate that security is involved in every single project at the project initiation. So you're getting security visibility from the project start, and you can guide and make sure that security is part of the project. You need to make sure that you are given authority to control change. You need to make sure that security is part of the change management process and is able to approve or deny changes based on the risks that those changes will introduce. And then obviously there's always a point where you say that security function can be overruled if it is deemed necessary by senior executives to get project over the line, whether it's market demands, time constraints. However, this process has to be documented and it has to be signed off by the owning executives. So, it's a key point having this documentation. And then visibility. I think that's the key point in here as well. We've all been in big organizations where there's always a political battle with IT, that you are either not getting enough access or visibility to be able to uncover cybersecurity risks or problems or defects and detect essentially deviations from the processes. So this document as well outlines how IT cannot interfere from you gaining visibility into any infrastructure for you in order for you to be able to deliver your program. And then you will set out, the last part is you will set out the daily operations, basically how they're going to be shared, how who's going to be responsible for patching, who's going to be responsible for creating and building cloud standards, provisioning on your infrastructure, and things like that. So you can put all of this here where other parts of security might be outsourced. So if infrastructure is building virtual machines, then obviously they will be part of those daily operations, but you need to make sure how you define security standards in those virtual machine builds. So I hope you guys find this document useful. This document obviously is been taken from Greg van der Gast's books, and there's some great advice. And if you want to dig deeper, obviously read one of his books, one of his latest books about how to use this in your environment. But I think it's a great tool to have in your pocket to get traction and support within your cyber program. So guys, that's it. That's the episode of that's the Cyber Diaries episode number 27. Oh, I just forgot to update the slide, but guys, ignore that. Thanks for being along and sticking around. Hopefully you find some useful information. Hopefully you've been informed about cybersecurity news. You find the day in the life of a CISO interesting, and hopefully you learn about new vendors. Please like, subscribe, and follow the channel. So hopefully I can deliver some more interesting episodes in the near future. Thank you, guys.